Go. Welcome to your best bets. One of the best weeks of the year ahead of us. We had the Players Championship this week. Uh, big NCAA basketball week as well. Championship week, culminating Selection Sunday. So a lot going on this week in the world of sports. The Players Championship, one of my favorites. I know I think I speak for the guys. I'm going to introduce one of their favorite tournaments as well. Many consider it the fifth major, crown jewel of the PGA Tour. So we got to talk about that tonight. We're going to, of course, review the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Really compelling, awesome Sunday that we were treated to yesterday. And going to talk about the changes the tour made in last week, talking about the designated events and some of the qualifications for those events in 2024, which leads me to introducing the I guess panel. I don't know if I've ever used that word, but the panel tonight. And 150 shows in now, we got a panel. Johnny Strauss here. What's up?
You know, I think this is going to be a good week. My only thought is, and the only thing I want to introduce the show with is in a 1v1 bet, are we going to have more balls in the water at 17 or mock drafts that we see on Twitter or some other random publication, which I'll be quite honest with you, I'm already exhausted of as of like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I think that means I follow too many of those types of people on Twitter. But I just wonder if that's going to be the case. But either way, good to be here. Good to talk about this week.
I'm glad you mentioned mock drafts because obviously we're on the precipice of free agency week in the NFL, but it's already started today with these agreements before the actual free agency opens. Derek Carr, so a lot's going to be going on. A lot going on with my team, the Bears. I mean, how many times are we going to trade back? How many picks are we going to acquire? So lots to think about there as well. Dave Belleville's here. Dave, we haven't had you on since the majors draft, which was a really fun podcast that we did in the fall. So glad to have you back. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you. Glad to be here. That was a very fun podcast. And actually, about a week or so ago, I kind of found my notes from that and I saw all my picks. So I'm going to try to keep track of that this year. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
How are they panning out? Because I don't remember who I
picked. Well, we haven't had a major yet. So, right now I'm still 4 for 4.
I usually leave Johnny to track that kind of stuff. But so I'm hoping he's doing that behind the scenes somewhere. I don't know.
Well, I found my picks. I didn't write down all of yours necessarily. So, but back to Johnny's point real quick. Johnny, I can guarantee you it's more mock drafts than balls in the water. So
God dang it.
Because they've been going on for 3 or 4 weeks. They're going to continue going on up until draft day. So
my favorite types of mock drafts are the hypothetical trades. Like that is somehow going to accurately be predicted that Houston is going to move up to 1 and give the exact compensation to Chicago in return, or Detroit's moving out of 6. It's just it makes me laugh, but it's
funny.
I don't mind seeing the occasional ones, and like I like to watch our Lions beat writers, because they are, they talk to Campbell and the team and everything, but good God, it's just it's so far away, and just stop.
The funny thing about that too, and then obviously we get to golf, but that tells you how powerful the NFL is, though, that they keep doing that stuff and people just eat it up. I mean, that's the crazy thing. So, yeah.
It's truly become a year-round league. I mean, even when there's no 100%. Games being played. My son, we'll move on in a second here. My son's 11, and he is like the next Adam Schefter in waiting. He knows guys' contracts. He sat Saturday and watched the combine. He was telling me about Anthony Richardson's measurables.
No way, that's cool.
And his 40 time. He's like, Dad, he's breaking all these records for quarterbacks, his vertical. He's obsessed with it. He's begging me to be on the podcast to talk about something. But yeah, I'm like, okay, I've read this Adam Schefter. Let's see if we can spin it forward to something, and maybe he can pay for my future house someday.
Or his college.
Or his college, something. But yeah, I think he actually, I mean, I think he likes the off season more than the actual games. I mean, he loves look at the mock drafts, free agency rumors, the whole thing. So it's amusing to me. Moving
Real
on.
quick on the NFL, you heard
Yeah.
it here first. Richardson will be drafted before Young from Alabama.
I mean, it's hard to see what he'll immediately become the best quarterback, the athlete. I guess the athletic quarterback in the NFL as soon as he enters the league. So it's hard to not see the upside. You see everything he can do. The problem is I saw him play. I watched him play football last year, and I just didn't see it. I didn't see it yet, but we didn't see it. We didn't see it with Josh Allen when he was at Wyoming, right? And I think that's the most valid comparison we've seen so far. Bryce Young, though, man, small dude, but
that's what scares me about him. And again, I know this isn't a football talk, but we've been talking about it off and on. He's 5'10". They say 204. Maybe he had a few cheeseburgers right before he weighed in.
He got fat. He purposely got fat for the draft.
That's what I'm saying. And I mean,
then he'll lose it all for his pro day.
Especially because more than likely he's going to a team whose offensive line is suspect to begin with. It scares the heck out of me for that guy, to be honest with you. It really does.
I mean, I'm feeling pretty confident there's going to be 4 quarterbacks in the top 10. I mean, I think Levis is going to be taken as well.
It's not a stretch for sure. It really isn't.
And I'm really interested to see what Johnny's Lions do if they take a quarterback for the future. I mean, unless you want Jared Goff taking you to the next level. I mean, who knows? He wasn't bad last year, though. Let's be honest. It wasn't bad.
No, I'm both ways on it. And I actually I'd like to actually chat about the draft, in the coming weeks. Maybe we could all have a big quote unquote, I guess, panel now of people. Yes. And we could talk about that kind of stuff and where our teams and everything like that are. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's nice to see, for the Lions' sake, a lot of top quality players projected, like Dave said, in the top 10. So it gives them options on whether they want to develop a guy because they've also got a first-round pick, or whether they want to trade out of that, or if teams jump ahead of them, to get that pick. So it's going to be, I think, pretty fascinating. I think we've seen a couple drafts in the last 3 to 5 years that have just been kind of just crazy with the trades. I think this top 10 this year is going to be really must-see TV, when it happens, because there's going to be so many teams trying to jockey in position there to get the guy they want, that they think that can lead them for the next 10 years.
Yeah. Moving forward, we could talk about NFL draft all day, but we are here to talk about golf.
You're gonna have to edit this whole first segment out.
No, this is the good stuff. I had Scott Peary on last night, and I kind of joked this was going to be like some sort of like teacher week, because I was scheduled to have Callahan on Thursday. Unfortunately, something happened where he's going to be in Las Vegas this week. So good for him, not good for the podcast. So he won't be on. But Dave, you're on, and you've had a similar, I guess, transition in your life that Scott he talked about last night, and I'm sure people that follow you on social media are aware of your venture. But for those that aren't, go ahead and give us the rundown.
Yeah, back when I was a younger kid, probably almost before either of you were born, not quite, but you were babies, I'm sure still. But I was a assistant golf professional back in the late 80s, early 90s. I did get my full Class A status within the PGA in 1991. And then I decided to get out of the golf business at the end of 1991 after I had spent 7-ish years in it. And I never, ever really thought much about getting back into it until maybe 6 months ago. My wife and I were kind of just sitting around talking about different things, and she mentioned something about, well, would you ever want to do that again? And again, I never had really thought about it, but that kind of put just a little thought in my mind, and I'm like, I don't know. And then just kind of snowballed a little bit. And at the golf garage, we have had a ton of people asking about lessons. And we're just like, yeah, we haven't found anybody. Nick Benz did them for a short period of time whenever he would come up from Indy. We've been sending a lot of people Callahan's way, and or to Apex. But I'm like, okay, why not? I mean, why not do this? I mean, I'm never going to make the tour. I don't want to make the tour. It's not that kind of golf professional. Um, but I do enjoy giving lessons and helping people get better. And I can do that. Am I going to take a 5 handicap and turn him into a scratch? Not likely, but you give me a beginner or somebody that's 15 or 18 or 10 that wants to get down to that, single digit or 5. Yeah, I can do that all day long. And if you think about it, that's the majority of your people anyway that are looking for instruction. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of a big deal. Already started actually a few weeks ago. I've probably given 12, 14 lessons already. And right now I'm just doing them on my off time. So, at some point, I don't know when that'll be. Hopefully I'll have a few more hours to devote to that. So, yeah, just, pretty exciting. Looking forward to it.
Gotta be pretty busy right now, I would think, juggling both.
Yeah, it is hard because one of the things that Scott Toner, the owner of Golf Garage, and I discussed, he's like, I really don't want you giving them, during the hours that you're working, because, and which I get. And we're so busy right now anyway with the 3 bays, there's not a ton of open times. So it's really trying to fit them in around, whenever we've got some openings, and or once we can get outside, that'll make it a little bit easier as well. So, yeah, I mean, the time I decided to announce it was back in February. I have had so many people ask, hey, when can we do it? When are you going to do it? And so, yeah, it's just kind of snowballed from there. So it's been really good so far, though.
Yeah. Johnny, anything to add on that?
Well, I mean, I think you fit in with a lot of the other like local guys. Like a lot of the amateur players around here when I first moved down here, God, it's been probably 15 years or so. A lot of just like gearheads, just golf nuts, just not the type that would just show up to the golf course, let's just play, and not really care much about the game and everything like that. So I think your understanding of the golf swing, just talking with guys that we play with, every Saturday morning or during a tournament or something like that, and talking about the various swings and fundamentals and the swing thoughts and everything. I got to think that's that would probably prepare you pretty well to adjust to the different types of golfers that you're going to get in. And like I think you said, it probably seems to me that you just want people to come in and give them some lessons and just make golf just a little bit more fun. Like you're not going to create the next city champion. You're not looking to do that. You just want a guy who's going to, be able to go out and have a couple beers with his buddies and maybe he can't break 90 and you turn him into an 87 or 86 shooter. I mean that's kind of ultimately your goal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And the big key to that too is I don't have one specific method or way that I teach. I mean, different people, body types, sizes, ages, they swing the golf club differently. So there's not really one, I call it like a cookie cutter type swing. That's not me. But there are certain basics that have to be met, from waist high to waist high, both backswing, follow through, and at impact. So if you can kind of get them to where they're better able to match that segment of their swing up, they're going to be a lot better. And I got to tell you, the other thing that kind of went ahead and pushed me down this way, I do remember giving lessons years ago. There is no feeling like having that person who can't get the ball airborne or that hits it crooked or whatever, when they hit that one shot doing what you've kind of shown them and instructed, and that ball takes off, their face just lights up and they're like, oh my gosh. And to me, that's the best feeling in the world. I love hitting a good drive. I love making a good putt. I get it. That's personal stuff. But to help somebody else do that, and that it's almost like the light bulb goes on and their eyes light up. That's the best feeling. I mean, it's just amazing. So,
yeah. I mean, the community of golf in Fort Wayne, really big group of people, really kind of tight knit. A lot of us know each other. And so, I mean, I think we're all excited and happy for you that you're on this path. I know you'll be awesome at it because you're great with people. you're extremely patient and you're just likable. So I can't see this not going well for you. So
I appreciate that. You're too kind.
yeah,
Behind the scenes,
I
maybe
am.
not so much, but
I am. Unless it's something with Tim, my brother, then yeah, maybe that's
well,
yeah, yeah. Although
no,
he's
actually,
not.
I learned partially from him. He's got to be the most chill dude I've ever met.
Well, there's some reasons behind that one as well, but
Fair enough.
yeah, the Arnold Palmer Invitational continues to deliver year after year. It's maybe arguably the hardest non-major on tour. I'm not convinced this is a great golf course, but it's become a really amazing test of golf. I've said this on the show several times. I'm not in love with courses that have firm greens that are surrounded by thick rough. I think it's, then it becomes a bit of a chipping contest. Uh, and I think it's kind of that same thing year after year at the API. It doesn't make it not compelling because it is, and it's entertaining and it's great. And the reason why it was great this year is because God, we have so many top players yesterday going for the win. At one point, I was convinced 7 different guys were going to win that tournament. For half the day, I was like, Jordan Spieth, man, this is going to be his biggest win in quite a while. And then, God damn, he gagged it down the stretch, and he just couldn't make a 6-footer. And then it looked like Rory, right? And then he had made a couple bogeys, and then I'm like, this is Scotty Scheffler's tournament. He wins these hard tournaments. He knows how to close them out. And then he wasn't able to. And then Kurt Kitayama, the guy you least expect, walks through the door. What was your take, Dave, on the day? And this has to be what the tour wants with these designated / elevated events, right?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't get to see a ton of the final round, but I was following along on my ESPN app. And when's the last time a guy won a tournament, any tournament, and hit 2 balls out of bounds?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's been a while,
and recovers from it. That's what I mean. That's what was so amazing. But I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of flipping through my app. Spieth is 9 under, and he's got a 1-shot lead, and I'm like, same thing. Yes, all right, come on, Jordan. And then I look back up, and he makes a double, and he's back down. And then Scheffler, and then Rory's tied at the top, and then it's, I don't want to say he's an unknown, but because he is in the top 50, but hasn't really won much yet. And he birdies the 17th hole,
yeah,
and then makes a great par on 18.
Yeah.
So,
and nobody was birdieing 17 yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, very riveting, fantastic golf. I do agree with you though. I'm not a big fan, and I don't know if they set it up that way or if it kind of happened by accident because of all the winds and everything that blew. But I actually heard they didn't even mow the greens on Friday. All they did was roll them because they had a feeling they were going to kind of get away from them. So on one hand, I do like watching the guys struggle a little bit. I mean, they're hitting wedges into those greens that aren't stopping. I mean, that stuff we do all the time. But like you said, then it was into rough that like you can't see the ball, like it's just gone. To have to chip out of that, I mean, it's tough. It's very tough.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm interested in Johnny's take on that. I mean, I'm all for events that are not birdie fest and 8 under is a great
100%.
score.
100%.
Whatever. I just like to see some variety with the short game shots. I'd like to see, some runoffs and things of that nature. I don't know. That's just me. Johnny, what were your thoughts? By the way, we didn't even mention Harris English probably should have won this as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I had Scotty Scheffler as my best bet this week and was really feeling it. He was hitting a lot of really good shots down the stretch. Couldn't buy a putt. I still figured he was somehow going to eke into a playoff at the end there, but obviously not to be. The why I like the API. I mean, the golf course is good, yes, and everything, but I love how they set the golf course up. And yes, there is a lot of chip shots because it's almost impossible to hold the greens. But you know what? That's each tournament kind of needs to have their own different little characteristic. I mean, there's some courses that they're going to shoot 24, 25 under par on. There's some that, they can't get the ball in the fairways because of the dog legs. You've got small greens, you've got, runoff areas on other courses. So this is just the identity that this course has kind of established themselves. Is just one that you've got to give yourself. You got to hit the ball in the fairway, because you got to give yourself an iron from the fairway to have any chance at holding the greens. And the guys who hit it high and put a lot of spin on it, like Kurt Kitayama does. I mean, that guy, he's only 5'7", 5'8", and I mean, he's got probably 180 ball speed, and can spin the ball extremely well. So you kind of fit the profile of the golf course there. But um, I like how this kind of provides a really tough, I don't want to say U.S. Open, but kind of towards that way, that kind of stretch there. It really tests them out before they get to the Players Championship, and I was fine with it. I mean, I think there's 17 really good holes at Bay Hill, and 18 is just kind of almost too much. But it really forces force the guys to hit an iron or hit a driver so they can have an iron shot from the fairway. And on 18, Kitayama pulls it left, gets a bad lie, and that second shot was remarkable out of that thick rough. They hadn't mowed the rough all week, so it was real thick. He loses it 12 feet right. I mean, that's just 4 yards right, and that thing is in the rocks. So to be able to hit an iron and keep it, where he wanted to go and everything was amazing there. But I think it was a very compelling final round. I mean, obviously it was, but with the missed putts and nobody could really get in a groove of just hitting fairways and greens, and it ended up being kind of a short game contest if you couldn't spin your irons there. And we had, I'm looking here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 guys in the last hour could have won that event there. And for Kitayama to hit it out of bounds and make triple on, was it 9? Yeah, triple on 9 and come back to win is amazing. And first time a player has made a triple on the final round since 2017 Victor Hovland in, I think it was Puerto Rico, but pretty good golf. Like that guy, and this event is kind of designed for these elite players to do well. And Kurt Kitayama's been a journeyman. I mean, after getting out of college at UNLV, played the Canadian Tour, the Latino Tour, the Japan Tour. He actually finished 177th in Korn Ferry Tour status in 2017 and had to go back. And he missed Q school, so he went to Europe, never seen Europe before, qualified for the then European Tour, and was always kind of a decent player, made a lot of cuts out there, was just kind of a compiler, and finally found his break where he was able to, play well on some PGA Tour events and got his card, and now he's got an exemption for the next, 3+ years. So pretty remarkable story. Yet again, another kind of neat Sunday that the PGA Tour has produced.
He's had an amazing path, and just kind of shows you, if you're a grinder and you work at this thing, I mean, there's a breakthrough potentially down the road. He's been really good for the last year. I mean, when he finished second at the Scottish Open, great field there, finished second to Rahm at Mexico. He's been around on a lot of leaderboards last year, so this wasn't a shock he was up there. It's certainly surprising to see him beat a field of this caliber, but this guy's 19th in the world now. That was stunning when I saw that after he won. That was crazy. Any other takes from the API for you, Belleville?
Oh, excuse me. Other than kind of what you said, it was hard. I mean, Spieth obviously had some problems putting. Scotty Scheffler had some problems putting. And the funny thing is, we were talking about this again the other day, the greens that those guys putt on are almost always so pure. If they get the right line, it's going in. I mean, it's that simple. But I don't know if it's because they didn't mow them a day or two, or I don't know what it was, but they did seem to really struggle on those greens. And it's not like they rebuilt the greens, this year, and those were all new things. These guys are used to playing these holes and the course. So it just, I don't want to say shocked me, but to see them struggle, so many of them, when you throw John Rahm in there, he shoots 67, 76, 76. I mean, I don't remember what he shot the last day, but it's like, it's like he said, this golf course is really effing hard. I mean, that's just plain and simple.
You mean John Rahm didn't win after the first round?
Sir, he did not.
I thought the tournament was handed to him at that point.
That's pretty much what they do usually, isn't it?
I was probably guilty of it too. Johnny, before I get any other thoughts on any players, I need to put this out there before you do. I'm kind of out on Victor Hovland. I'm kind of out. Like I have some major doubts he's ever going to win a major with that short game. I think. I mean, he got obviously he made an ace this week. I think he hold out another iron shot. His short game it's incomprehensibly bad. Where to the point where I don't know how he wins one of these tournaments. We saw him do the exact same thing at the API last year. He comes that close, and Sunday he just cannot get the ball up and down. I have some real questions whether he can win a non-birdie fest or a field against a field like this. That's one take. Number two, NBC was god awful, and so Dave, you didn't see a ton. So I'll say this for Johnny.
I didn't see a ton of it. Yeah.
Well, guess what? We didn't either. We didn't
Therein
either.
lies the problem.
That's the problem. I mean, the whole issue with the PGA Tour building up these events where, like, okay, we got the best players in the world together. We are on this stage. We're talking about Arnold Palmer. Everything is just mismatched. They're missing key shots. Like we didn't even see Kitayama's drive on 16. He was leader of the golf tournament at that point. I mean, I understand there was a lot going on. There's a lot of guys, 10, 12 guys they had to follow. I understand that you're going to miss some shots, but it was incomprehensibly bad. The commercial load, I don't know if there's a way they can do this where, the last hour is commercial free. I'm sure we'll see that this week at the Players, but I mean, I was astonished how far behind they are against CBS. The player interview with Ricky Fowler was not good. I can't understand why they just can't follow the model that CBS laid down in the West Coast. So those are a couple of my thoughts, Johnny. Hand off to you.
I didn't. I was at my cousin's house and we had it on, and but it did seem like every time I looked up, they were either playing through or at a full commercial break. And I know they've done it. They've missed. They'll play like some key putts during the playing through, and yes, I know that's showing it, but it's not building up the drama that they need to do. But I had seen a ton of tweets when I got home yesterday evening about how bad it was and how many commercials there were. And I did watch it this evening right before dinner, and it you're right, it wasn't good. It's not comparable right now to how well CBS has kind of adjusted on the fly on how they're doing things. And I think that's the big thing is just show golf shots, just show them. And even, it's forgivable if you do them on delay, if they're during the commercial break, just do something. But we're just getting tired of watching commercial after commercial after commercial after only seeing like 2 or 3 golf shots per session there. But that was bad, and hopefully the Players Championship this week, they do have the coverage there, will be much better, but we'll see. And that's kind of interesting, Victor Hovland, that you're off on him that strongly. But I think you're right, though. You get into when hitting greens are really tough, he just gets so exposed, and it seems like he's got the short game of like an elite amateur. And those elite amateurs have good short games, but the PGA Tour guys are a huge step above that. And he's always gotten away with it with elite ball striking, and he's a good putter. And you can't win a 72 hole golf event. I mean, I'm sure he's won before, in the shorter events when 36 holes, 54 holes or whatever, and done really well, doing that stuff. But you can't miss a green and it would be that impossible to make a par save, because that ends up killing all your momentum. Because I think he fell back to what, 3 or 4 under, something like that. Makes a couple birdies coming in, to make it look respectable. But you're right. If he can't change this, and this has been his entire, professional golfing career, he might not be one of those guys who's ever going to win, just because you can't win golf tournaments with that consistently poor of a short game.
Yeah, and we have said before in the past, well, maybe it doesn't matter if you're truly that good of an iron player, but conditions like this, everyone's going to miss some greens.
Yes.
And I mean, if you just think of all the elite players, you think of Scheffler, Rory, JT, Rahm. I mean, these guys have the very best short games. Like if they miss a green, you're pretty confident they're going to get it up and down. And I just don't get that feeling when I watch Victor play, and it usually bears it out. And the only other guy that is kind of comparable is Morikawa. We've seen his short game kind of come and go. But he's shown the ability to overcome it maybe a little bit more than Vic has. I hope I'm wrong. It just feels like one of those things where you're like, boy, guys, we've been hearing about how hard Victor's working on a short game, and the numbers really bear it out. It feels very like Adam Scott putting, where we hear like, man, Scotty's been working on his putting, and he's really been gaining some strokes on the greens. And then a big event comes and he gags it. We've seen that with Adam Scott a lot the last couple of years. So I don't know. Dave, you got a thought there?
Yeah, just real quick. If you're talking about Hovland being like a superstar, you're right. I don't think he's going to be unless he makes significant strides in the short game. There's still going to be courses and conditions and different things like that where he's going to be just fine because it's a ball striking thing or whatever. If he hits 17 or 18 greens, okay, no problem. But yeah, you put him, whether it's a US Open setup, potentially a players setup, or like the API, it's going to be really, really hard for him if he doesn't improve that short game significantly. That is correct.
I'm just saying, look at his wins. First of all,
Yeah.
none on the mainland USA, and they're all birdie fest. Now he's had a couple really nice DP tour wins for sure. A couple bigger events, but on the PGA Tour, we haven't seen him do it against an elite field and B a more challenging golf course than a Mayakoba or Puerto Rico.
Correct.
I do have some worries about Spieth. The old Spieth closes this tournament out. This version of Spieth, this roller coaster Spieth, that was a bit jarring to see him miss. I think a 5-footer, a 3-foot, 8-inch putt, and then a couple of 7-footers. I mean, all of them, and they were all the same type of putt where it wasn't a ton of break on any of those putts. So I don't know, Jordan. I mean, the ball striking, it's like when he has the ball striking, then the putter fails. And then when he's struggling with the ball striking, he's making 40-footers. I guess it's just very Spiethian. This tournament it feels like. But I am monitoring the situation as we go toward the Masters, because Jordan at the Masters is usually money.
Yes.
Anything else from you, Johnny?
Nope. Good.
Big implementations in the PGA Tour are coming next year. Not all that different from what we're seeing this year, at least the idea of it. But it's going to be a little bit more exclusive next year. So I'm just going to read a couple of these things, and I wanted to talk about what you guys like and don't like about this setup. 8 designated events next year in 2024, field sizes of 70 to 78 players, elevated purses, and elevated FedEx Cup points. That's a little different. We've mentioned that, hey, you should not be getting the same FedEx Cup points for the API as you are at the John Deere Classic. That is not an apples to apples comparison. No 36-hole cut at those events. In addition to the 8, you'll have the majors, the players, and the 3 FedEx Cup playoff events. The qualifying for those events, I think I think the big thing on social media was like, oh man, this is Live 2.0, but here's I think where the difference lies, and I'm going to talk about top 50 players from the prior FedEx Cup standings, the top 10 players for that current year's FedEx Cup standings that were eligible already. Top 5 players not otherwise eligible earning the most FedEx Cup points through each collection of standard events. that year's tournament winners, not otherwise eligible. Um, Top 30 in the official world golf rankings. So it's grabbing everyone that's not made it, that are still an elite player. And then the 4 sponsors exemptions restricted. I'll start with Dave. Dave, thoughts on this? Do you feel like this is the rich getting richer? Do you feel like this is a fair system? Where are you at?
Yes, that's where I'm at. On one hand, I'm frustrated and I don't want to say angry because it doesn't affect me whatsoever, but this is all 100% direct response to the whole live model and the live problem, if you want to call it that. So from that perspective, why wasn't this done 5 years ago? To me, that's what's frustrating. It wouldn't even be being done today had live not come along last year. So as much as everybody wants to bitch about live or this or that or whatever, the guys are still on PGA Tour better thank live and thank all those guys, because that's what has led to this. Now, with that said, originally I look at it and I'm like, man, it is just a money grab, the rich getting richer. But I read a thing today actually by Peter Malnati, who is I'll call an everyday journeyman. He's on the PGA Tour policy board, and he came out 100% in support of it after he was 100% against it all the time leading up to this till he was in that final meeting. And after reading his post and some of his reasonings, I'm softening, I guess, a little bit. I get it. From a fan perspective and from a media perspective, whether that's NBC with their horrible coverage or CBS with their really good coverage, it makes 100% sense. You're going to have some of the best fields, best players going head to head against each other. And just like you said, though, you're still going to have maybe a Kurt Kitayama, which he would have got in, because of his world ranking. But guys like that who, this year they're playing great. So they're in the top 15 or whatever in FedEx Cup points. They're still going to be there. So if you've played well over the last 12 months, even though you may or may not have won, you're gonna get a chance. So, is it the PGA Tour of 5 years ago or in my era 25 years ago? No, it's not, and I'm not sure it should be at this particular point. So again, I'm kind of taking a we'll see. I'm not 100% against it. It's frustrating that it couldn't have happened 5 years ago. If you can do it now, why couldn't we do it then? That's all. So yeah, I think it'll be okay. I really do. I really do.
Well, I mean, without getting into the live comparisons, because I think if you polled a lot of the good players, I even heard John Rahm say that if it wasn't for live, we wouldn't be doing this. So I think they all kind of understand that. So, but taken away from it, I mean, it's not going to change too much. These are just basically WGCs. They're just going to, they might add a couple more here and there, and I think it's going to incentivize these guys though to play, in more events. Maybe the guy, the guys who let's say Ricky Fowler, a tremendous presence, big fan favorite, a guy where fans will go to watch him. And let's say he's outside of that top 75 or 80, doesn't qualify for those events. He's going to play in these other little events. And I think Max Homa, when they first interviewed him and asked him about it, I think a lot of it is going to end up saving these smaller events. Look at the Honda field. Look how bad that was. We were talking about Eric Cole and Chris Kirk going at it at the final, which it was an outstanding golf tournament for people like us three who are going to watch that stuff. But people aren't tuning in to watch Chris Kirk, win a golf tournament.
Yeah.
They're going to see, they're going to tune in if they see Rory and Jordan and all these guys at Bay Hill competing and everything. So I think it's an interesting thing because it's only a few events and it'll really get hopefully these superstar players all into one, but it'll also incentivize those good players to continue to maintain the excellence by playing in their fair share of events during the season, and it will, I think, improve the fields as a whole. There's going to be a lot of, I think, adjustments though, because I'm not a fan of the no cut. I like the smaller field, but if you remember the WGCs, the last 20 guys they were straight trash. I mean, either they somehow qualified for playing on the Japan tour or, some other random tours and everything like that. So they need to figure out something at the end of the field, because it just had a very it just was too much of an invitational field. Maybe what they do is all 80 are guaranteed to make X amount of money, but they only give the top 50 who finish FedEx Cup points. So you could potentially earn 0 FedEx Cup points. And I think that's what the PGA Tour is really pushing for, is to not necessarily the money list stuff. Yes, that is very, very important, but to earn invitations into all these, and to get into the Masters or get into the US Open, you've got to be so much on the FedEx Cup rankings, and figure out a way to give them points, but also make it compelling near that part of the leaderboard where these guys still have to play. You can't have a guy who's like 18 over par going into the final day and just plays an hour and 20-minute round of golf, and just so he can catch his flight out and go to the next event there. But if they can add some interest to it, and I think they're going to have the quality fields that, and with the enhanced FedEx Cup points, they're going to make these events interesting, and hopefully they make the current events like Bay Hill or Harbor Town, or just the interesting ones where they've got a history and can additionally draw the fans to have that interest and watch the events. It'll be, I think there's going to be some bumps, and how it's figured out over the course of the next couple of years. But I really like it, because the rich, the elite, I mean, if you look at any other sport, I mean, look at what an NBA player makes, or what a quarterback in the NFL makes. I mean, we just saw the guy from Seattle today, 3 years, 105 million. I mean, these guys are making $30 million.
Geno Smith, yeah.
Geno Smith, there we go. Thank you. And that's okay if John Rahm does that. I mean, if he's going to make, if Rory's going to make $25 million a year, I mean, the dudes deserve it, because they're better than everybody. But this, I think, will incentivize guys to play in more of these events, to try to get into that top 50, to get those guaranteed starts in there. And you know what? It's just like what Rory McIlroy has always said. Like, if you're complaining about not getting starts, and I think that's what those the 100 to 225 on the rankings are constantly complaining about, is not getting enough starts. Unfortunately, you just got to do better. You got to take advantage of the times when you get the opportunities to play well, and that's what it is. And that's the good thing about the PGA Tour, or any golf tour, is as long as you pay the entry fee, you've got just as good as a chance as John Rahm or Rory McIlroy to win that. There's no handicapping. There's no coach not playing you because of your salary or anything like that. So I could see both ends of it. I think it's going to be a positive. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but it'll add some more compelling events throughout the season. And I'm just hoping that in turn will build up the Houston Open, the Honda, whatever that tournament's going to be called, and it's going to make those events all the better with potentially better star power.
And I think it will, Johnny. Sorry, Phil, if I meant to cut you off, I didn't mean to, but I think it will too, a little bit, because especially if they time them right, because that was part of the problem with Honda. They came straight from the Waste Management, which was a elevated event. They went then to Honda. Then you got 2 straight elevated events after that, the API and now the Players. Guys aren't going to play 4 straight weeks.
Yep.
They're just not. I mean, that's one question I was going to ask you in a little bit. As well as I do, and Phil knows as well, even just playing in like the Fort Wayne City tournament, that's 3 days. But by the time you're done with that tournament, from a mental and physical standpoint, you're exhausted. So try doing that 4 straight weeks for these guys. And the thing I was going to say is, the guys that were in the hunt this last week on such a tough golf course, is that going to take somewhat of a toll coming up this week? You know what I'm saying? You go, now you've got back-to-back weeks of the same type thing. So I get that, but I also think, again, if they're spaced correctly, I think it'll help the Houston Open or the Honda or whatever, because guys are going to be like, oh, I haven't played in 3 weeks. I might want to play this week, even though then there's an elevated event the following week. So this is going to sound dumb. If they do it right, I think it could really help some of the other off events as well.
Yeah, I think the one of the struggles with what the PGA Tour has now is there's so many good events from January 1st to late April. There's just every single one is just an outstanding event, and then they thin out quite a bit, and they're just at that point searching. So that's going to be the hard part. You're right. It seems like every single week we've been talking about an elevated event, and we're talking about, Phil mentioned in the opening, this is quote unquote the fifth major we're going to be talking about. But really, is it any bigger than Waste Management, or is it any bigger than last week at API? So I think that's a definite thing that they're going to have to figure out is how to make these go into June and July before the Open Championship.
Right.
The PGA Tour this week is going to tell you that this tournament is bigger than those other tournaments because it's their crown jewel, right? Some really good thoughts from the panel so far. So I'm going to add my thoughts, and I don't want to be redundant at all. But I mentioned in my little intro that the separator from this model versus Liv's model is the qualification system. Like, these guys are earning their way into these events, and Liv, you're sort of guaranteed your spot. If Phil Mickelson plays poorly on Liv, he's not going anywhere. I mean, he's not.
And he does.
Right. I mean, to me, this is almost the feel of like a English Premier League kind of relegation system a little bit. Yes, I'm going soccer. Never thought I'd have to do a comparison there, but Johnny kind of said it. You play well, whether you're a top player right now, you're a Peter Malnati mid-tier guy. You play well, you're going to earn your way in. If and that's through either these designated events or the John Deere Classic or the event up in Detroit. If you play good golf, you're going to earn your way in, and that's the separator for me. I don't love the no cut aspect, but as Johnny mentioned, we've been having no cuts for a while on tour with WGCs, the tournament champions, the FedEx Cup playoff, the third events. Well, I guess it's now the second event. When they get down to the top 70, there's no cut. There's no cut at the Tour Championship. So, yeah, I mean, that's not great, but that's not all that different than the model that we've seen. What else do I like? I think this season they made it mandatory for the top guys to play the designated events, not mandatory next year. There's still going to be a portion of their schedule that they'll have to play some of these smaller events. Spieth playing, I don't know if he'll play the John Deere he used to, but you'll still see these guys at some of these events, and it'll be a big deal. I also agree with both of you. I think you both said it, that it's going to make these these events that are non-designated even more compelling and bigger. We saw it last week at the Honda with Eric Cole. I mean, we're like, holy shit, is Eric Cole going to win this tournament? And he's going to gain status and entry into all these big tournaments. Like, that's a life-changing thing for someone like that. So there's some really good things about this. And yeah, and Johnny said it perfectly. I mean, who are the main drivers in the NBA? LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Giannis, all these guys. Because I mean, and that's deserved, right? Same thing with Rory, Rahm, Spieth. Like, these guys are these are the guys that people come to see play golf tournaments. They're the reason you're tuning in on Sunday. And if this was Kurt Kitayama and I don't know, what's a really obscure name, Scott Stallings on Sunday, it just doesn't have the same pull. So of course it's the rich getting richer, but I also think it's the middle guys getting richer as well. And I think a lot of these guys see that, because it's going to provide them amazing opportunity to get into that elite level of events. Maybe everyone thinks that way except James Hahn of the world. I don't know.
Well, the funny thing about that, and I've got a couple of things, names right here, but Champions Tour, PGA Tour Champions, same type of thing. A couple years ago, Stephen Alker had no status. He Monday qualifies. He wins the tournament. and he won their Charles Schwab Cup last year. Doug Barron 3 years ago, he was the first guy suspended by the PGA Tour for drug violations. Monday qualifies, wins the tournament, and now he's a full time. So Eric Cole 2 weeks ago, Monday qualifier, finishes second in the tournament. That I know he didn't win, but that changed his life. That changed his year. Now he's going to have to take some more advantage of some of that stuff, but that's the way you then get into that top 70 or top 75. So you know what? You don't like what's going on right now with your golf life or whatever, play better. Yep. I mean, it's that's the great thing about golf. You can't say, well, my pitcher had a bad day, or, you know, all my hitters struck out 5 times or whatever. No, you go do it. Mm-hmm. You take care of it. You play better. You don't like it, play better.
Yeah. The PIP is being reduced in half as a result of all these purses going up. I think we saw Pebble next year. It looks like it's going to be an elevated event. Like, how awesome is that going to be? That came out. Yeah, I think it looks. There was a Golf Week article that there's sources are saying that it's no longer going to be a pro-am, and that as early as next year it could be.
Really?
So how cool would it be to have? Did I get that right, Belvo?
Well, it's still going to be pro-am, but they're going to be done on Friday. They're not going to play the weekend.
Got it.
The pro-am part's only going to be 36 holes. Yeah.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
But so, and it sounds like the 8 designated events, at least for next year, not been finalized. So the idea is that there's some of these, you know, are going to move around to different events. So for the most part, I really like it. But you know, maybe I'm a PGA Tour homer. Maybe that's already been established with my position for the past year. Probably Johnny's as well. Belleville, you've been a little bit more in the middle, which is probably it's fair. We've had some others on here that are more pro live. And it's not an anti-live take. This is just a pro PGA Tour take. And sure, it is absolutely a response to live. You are not wrong there. And they've been sitting on this kind of stuff for years, and it's kind of incomprehensible why it's taken this long to develop this. But at least we're here some way. We've gotten this system now, and I think it's going to be great. I really do.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the players. The 5th major. We're gonna see the return. I don't know if we're gonna see the return of Gold Boy this year or not. Dave, are you aware who Gold Boy is?
No, fill me in. Fill me in, Phil.
I'm a little disappointed in that.
I'm so sorry. Probably not the first time I've disappointed somebody today.
Right. Well, I don't even know how to explain it really. It was on last year's telecast. They had this gold statue type, like computerized guy playing the 17th hole. Was it a gold golf ball too, Johnny?
Yes, it was it was the trophy. You know, the trophy is the compilation of every
how
single.
Have I not seen anything about that?
So the trophy is digitally produced, and it was sitting there on the 17th hole, and it looks like it's about 30, 40 feet high or something like that. And the figure on the trophy, who they called Goldman, actually, I think it was Goldman, Gold Boy, whatever,
yeah,
gets off the trophy stand and hits a golf shot. And they did this. They also did it and created the better than most putt, and actually showed it to Tiger. They showed it to Tiger without him even knowing. And
he had this incredulous look on his face, like what the fuck am I looking at?
Yes. So, you know, the rumor is though. Yeah, the rumor is that they I think they've taken the jokes and they're not going to play with it anymore, and they're done with it. Is what I actually read a tweet right before we came on.
You know what? I just pulled it up actually. And the sad part is I don't remember seeing that.
Oh my goodness.
That's disappointing.
I think I posted, like when I'd post the podcast on social, I'd put like a screenshot of Goldman at various times throughout the season.
I think it was like the next 36 weeks. That was one on your photo dump on the post.
I actually, on my phone, I have 4 or 5 different screenshots of Goldman. If anyone ever went through my phone, they'd be like, what is going on here? Anyways, I digress. This golf course, TPC Sawgrass, of course, I can't think of the only other course comparable to me of like where you know all the holes, you know where not to hit each, this drive or the approach shot is Augusta. I mean, you just know this golf course like the back of your hand, and that's kind of the fun part as you're watching the telecast. Not a long golf course, only 7,200 yards. Pete Dye design. They're playing for $25 million this week, guys. 4.5 million to the winner. Obviously, the toughest field in golf. I'm just literally rattling off things here. The champion is not here. Cam Smith, the guy that finished second, is not here. Anirban Lahiri, guy that probably should have won last year. Long shot winners here. I mean, they have real viability. I mean, we've seen some long shots like Siwoo Kim over the past 5 years. I mean, even going back, I mean, we've seen who was the Aussie that won?
Craig
Um,
Perks.
Yes, Craig
Craig
Perks.
Perks.
Yep.
I mean, so there's
And was
there.
never heard from again until he started announcing.
I mean, Matt
That's right.
Kuchar, KJ Choi, Tim Clark,
Tim Clark, yeah. I mean,
Stephen Ames.
there's been some. I mean, some good players, but not like
Yeah.
super
Really
superstars.
good ball strikers, though, those
Balls,
names you
good
just listed.
good strategists
Yeah.
around the golf
Yeah.
course, and that's and we've talked about this in the podcast a lot. Pete Dye designs. I mean, they create deception um, with especially the approach shots, uncertainty, visual, just kind of, for lack of a better term, fuckery, right? Like,
That's a
use
great term,
it's a
actually.
great term. We've created a nice term. To me, I don't know if there's any correlation with I've played well here in the past. I'm going to play well this year. I just haven't seen. There's usually no consistency or no rhyme or reason of who plays well here, like other courses. I don't know, Johnny, if you've seen something different in the data that you've looked at.
There's guys that you can. There's no particular guy or skill set that you really want to consistently fade year after year, and it's because of the golf course. The winds can get kind of weird because this is just a time in Florida when it's always windy. But like you said, it Pete Dye's golf courses. This is kind of the OG of him messing with your mind, with the golfer's mind, off the tee and then into the fairways. And he's always said, my golf courses aren't that hard. I just make them look hard. And that's where he just, he just, would get these guys to play. But there's a few that I'm gonna look to not play this week. And any kind of formats at all, and looking to fade in possible matchups just because they haven't had a good course history. But there is no telling. I mean, Tiger Woods for a while didn't have that well of a course history here, but he's won here a couple times. So it's like, yeah, you could win here. It's just the right week, but it doesn't give the consistency like we talked about Bay Hill last week. You look at course history, you look at guys who fit a certain good drivers of the golf ball, good iron players, and short games and whatnot. But here it could be just completely different, and that's what's so unique and fun about this, is that you can go in there and you look at the odds of the guys who have won in the past. I think it's a 144 player field. I mean, there's legitimately like 60 guys probably who could win this event. I mean, with a good week, if they're doing everything right. So that's normally not the case. Most golf tournaments you go in there, there's maybe 20, 25 in general. But this just doesn't do it. So this is going to be a hard one, and we're going to have to, when we make our picks and everything, we're going to probably have to go based on some certain criteria, whether it's trends or course history, or how we kind of feel their strokes gained and their strengths, fit the golf course in general.
Or just a wag. Wild ass guess.
The wild ass guess is probably.
What did you want last week, right? Kirk
Right.
who I heard was in some books 200 to 1.
Yeah.
Right.
So there you go. All right, let's get to the odds, guys. I think these guys have established themselves as sort of the big three. Remember the old days when it was Tiger, Ernie, Phil, it was the big three, and then they were like, well, wait, it's the big four, Retief Goosen, and then maybe there's a big five. Well, right now it feels like there's a separation of three. It's Rory, Rahm, and Scheffler. Rom and Rory, this is on DraftKings Sportsbook. Check your odds, of course, on other sports books, but they are at 9-1 both this week, and Scotty is at 11-1. Pat Cantley, damn it, I had all kinds of jokes lined up for his new sponsor. I was going to say that he constructed a nice finish. Really, I mean, I had because I can't
drilled a bunch of putts,
yes,
cut through that wind.
Because I don't have Jason Kokrak with the the poker references anymore. But so Patrick Cantley's at 16-1. Justin Thomas is at 18-1. Max Homa 20. Colin Morikawa 22. Xander and Victor Hovland at 25. Jason Day at 28. Tony Finau at 30. That's the group under 30-1. David Belleville, who do you like from that group? You got one or two there?
Yeah, I gotta go with Scheffler. It just
Scotty.
His all round game and just his form, the way he's played over the last year is just, it's probably been the most consistent of any player on tour. I mean, obviously he has what, 5 wins during that time, but Rahm probably has close to that. Rahm's number 1 in the world. But
I think it's underrated too. I mean, these are all big.
That's what I was going to say. Anytime he's in the field, he's near the top. I mean, it just lately that's just the way it is. So, yeah, I mean that with the lower odds, that would have to be my pick. My second one that I had was Rory, but I mean that's just like you said. Those are 2 of the top 3 right there. I mean, I don't really see anybody else in that group that just comes out at me and I go, oh yeah, I got to pick them. So
all right, so Dave's really going on a limb with Rory and Scotty. Johnny, what about you? Under 30-1 there.
Well, normally we look at value in a lot of the regular season PGA Tour events. This is a little bit different. This is more towards the majors, and we do, we always talk about the majors. We just say pick the guy who you think's going to win the event, and you got to really kind of just throw out the odds there, or you got to shop around, find your best book. So when a guy like John Rahm is looking at 13-2 or plus 650, plus 700, things like that, you just can't bet him in a regular season event because in theory he can't. He proved last week that he cannot win every single event, just about every single one of them. So with that being said, so if this is going to be maybe a little bit different here. I like Rory. He's won before just a couple years ago. Games there. Coulda, woulda, shoulda won last week. He's going to be on my card. I did want to mention, since Dave already mentioned Scheffler, yes, has a win bet, but he's a pretty good top 10 bet at plus odds, plus 125. I think that's real good. I think he's going to be up there. The only other name I wanted to mention, I don't love the odds, but we're going to have to go with it, is Jason Day. He's getting healthy and playing really good golf. Finished top 20 this last week here at Bay Hill. Had a good track record at this golf course, which is a huge plus for me. Again, I would love him if it was plus 3,500, but plus 2,800 is still enough. Again, I'm not really worried about the number. I just think that he's got a legitimate chance at winning. So I'll have him on my card. One guy in this group I am going to fade is Pat Cantlay. He seems to have struggled. Usually doesn't have the greatest track records at this place. So I'm going to keep him off my card. Might look at even fading him in some matchups.
Yeah. I made the decision. I'm gonna take my chances and not pick any of the top 3. And it's traditionally what I would go with as far as fading the top. That's something I might look at middle of the tournament if they're in position and they have really nice odds. I'm also going to fade the bottom of this portion of the board. Finau has, Johnny you mentioned him today. I just can't see it at Sawgrass. He's had a pretty terrible track record here. I already mentioned my hate for Hovland right now. I'm not seeing it from Xander, so I'm focusing on 2 guys here. I've said in my mind that Colin Morikawa is a Players Champion. I just don't know if it's going to be this year. I think he wins at this golf course. I just think it's so well suited for his game, his precision off the tee, and his elite iron game. It always comes down to putting for Colin. He's been very streaky, hit or miss so far this season. Since January, he's had 3 top sixes and 2 missed cuts. So we've seen a little bit of both sides of Colin. And the other guy that I really, really like this week, and it's taken me a long time to finally come around to believing it, but it's the second best guy that on tour since January 1st, Max Homa. 3 top threes. Even last week, elite ball striking, second worst putting tournament he's had in 18 months. He's been one of the better putters on tour. I think last week was a blip on the radar. I really like what Max Homa does around the golf course. He really has seemed to learn how to strategize his way around, and I trust his ball striking. It really truly is elite. And Max, he's obviously not done it in big events in his career, but I think we've seen a little bit of progression in that aspect. We saw him go head to head against Rahm a couple weeks ago in Riv and lost, but he was right there. I like Homa this week. Like I said, it's taken me a while to finally come around to Max being a superstar, but I think he's right there.
Feels like that's the next step for him, is just contend and win a Players Championship.
Yep. 30 to 60, probably. This is usually the range where you feel like, man, if I could get one of these guys, and I mean, you get the value is immense. Will Zalatoris, 35 to 1, missed a cut. Or no, he didn't miss a cut last week. It felt like he did. He just kind of toiled on the weekend. He's at 35. Terrell Hatton was in the mix last weekend at 35. Fitzpatrick, Spieth, and Cam Young, that's Dave's boy, 35. Sunjay at 40. Tom Kim at 40. Keegan at 45, Shane Lowry at 50, Connors, Keith Mitchell at 55, and Siwoo and Ricky Fowler at 60. Johnny, we'll start with you in this range.
Well, first, for anybody who likes Tom Kim this week, he goes, for some reason this week, they have him in there as Ju Young Kim. I actually did bet him really early in the season at this event. I had a free bet I think I threw on it, and I had to make sure that was Tom Kim. Now, of course, months ago I got him at 35 to 1, so now he's sitting there at 40, and I'm just not happy with myself. But I can't believe that. I think he's kind of come back to earth a little bit there. But anyways,
great golf course for him, though. Great golf course for him.
And that's exactly why I picked him specifically for this one, and not like a Masters or something, because this is the type of golf course when he's playing well, he will win a Players. And I just don't know if it's going to be this year, and I don't see it yet there. But anyways, guys, I do like
we're giving out future players tonight like crazy.
Future players. Watch his number. Yeah, he's not playing a good enough golf right now.
It's kind of like Zach Fitzgerald giving out majors to Colin Morikawa.
Oh my goodness,
right? Giving out like 8 or 9 of them.
Zach's taking a beating here, catching strays. He's not even on the show.
That's what he gets.
Tyrrell Hatton, he played really well at Bay Hill, and I think this is a good fit for him. And when he's playing good golf, he's really good. And I kind of just want to see him with a chance on 17, to see Tyrrell Hatton, just to see him play those last 3 holes. I'm not going to bet him this week as a win bet. I might bet him like top 10, so I can root against him in the final group, just having a Tyrrell Hatton meltdown. So,
that would give me some good theater coming down.
That would be some incredible theater. But yeah, I do like him there. Keegan Bradley playing really good golf. I think he's recommitted. Lost weight that he didn't know that he even had, but he's in shape. I think that's the most important thing, and playing good golf there. Ricky Fowler, not to win this event, but I like him on the top 20. Obviously former champion here, playing good. There's a couple others. I do like this group. One guy though I am going to fade, and he's only one of the only 2. First was Cantley, is Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth, the 2 miss the cut is not out yet. They'll probably have it tomorrow, I'll be looking at that number. If it's in plus odds, I'm going to bet him to miss the cut. It didn't work out for me a couple weeks ago. I bet Justin Suh to miss the cut, and he was the 36-hole leader. So take that information as you wish. But Jordan is this. He'll probably, since I'm throwing it out there, he'll probably end up contending. But I don't like him this week. But this is a good group of guys.
Yes.
I mean, I could go down the list and kind of say, I could have a reason for just everybody but Jordan Spieth to win in that group.
Dave, Cam Young?
No, actually, I don't even have him in this group. His form to me, I mean, I know he played decent, ended up decent last week or whatever, but no, I'm not. I still like the guy a lot, but I'm not going there for this week, and I'm not even going to say he's going to win a Players at some point because I'm not sure of that. So, no, I actually took Sanjay M. And Jordan Spieth.
Like that.
Okay. I don't disagree with you, Johnny, honestly, anything you said about Jordan. I just think that, and he said it, so I guess I have to trust him a little bit. All those putts he missed on Sunday, he's like, I hit them all on the exact line I wanted. We just didn't have the right line. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But if he truly is hitting the ball where he wants to, honestly, that's all you can ask. If you misread it, you misread it. So, is he going to have to make some of those to win? Absolutely. So we shall see. But he's been playing pretty decently, though. So
he has, he played well at Phoenix as well.
Yep.
I like the Sanjay play because it does feel like a Sanjay course. It really, really does.
It does, 100%. And that's, I mean, I almost went with the Tom Kim thing, but I'm like, I'm kind of like, he's kind of played out a little bit. I mean, it's not like he's playing horrible, but he's not playing as good as he was 6 months ago either. So
yeah, I think he's just, you see the frustrations with the missed putts, with the bad golf shots. He's kind of letting that get to him. He's just kind of caught up in the fame and the expectations of the President's Cup. And once he gets that figured out, I mean, he's only 21,
and he will get
old.
through it for sure. Yeah.
My two guys in this range. One is going to be Corey Connors at 55-1. Connors played well for 45 holes last week. He was leading middle of the day on Saturday. I don't think that's a Corey Connors course. API. I think Sawgrass is a Corey Connors course. Putting is always an adventure with him as well, but I kind of relate him to like a Sanjay Light, accurate, really, really solid iron player. Short game is always a question, but I like the number with Corey Connors. And the other guy, I can't quit him. I won't quit him, and that's Will Zalatoris. I think if you wait though on Will until Wednesday night, I think 35 might get closer to 40. I think because he's been a little bit off the radar, a little bit of questions about his health. I think that number is going to drop because I just don't think there's going to be a lot of people betting him. But I'm still encouraged overall that he's playing. He hasn't had any setbacks with back injury from last fall, and I'm just a firm believer in this guy being top 3-4 player in the world. So I'll wait on Will, but I do like him. 60-1 and above, guys. I told you in our text to pick out a couple you liked. It could be guys at 60. It could be guys at 150. Dave, who's the play? Is it guys that you like to win or guys that you think you might finish top 10, top 20?
Well, I've got a little of both. In the over 6,000 category, I actually went with Harris English, who played great last week. So I kind of got him carrying that on a little bit. And Sam Burns, again, a guy that has been a little under the radar again since he won. But yeah, he seems to have one of those kind of all round games that he can play anywhere. So those
Sam
were
Burns
my two.
At 80-1 is
exactly.
For as much as he's won.
Exactly. It's crazy. And then the other I had Max Homa, your guy, and for a top 5. I know that's not plus 60, but it's plus 450. And then keep this in mind: top 20 guy we were talking about a while ago, Eric Cole. He's in. And we're talking about, if he wants to move up, he's going to have to take advantage of some of these situations. He's from that area. I mean, he's from Florida. He plays a lot of that golf. He's hot, obviously, from 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, I really think that he can get you a top 20.
I'm going down the list. I'm waiting for him. Eric Cole for a top 20 is plus 1,000.
That's what I got. Yeah.
Okay. Johnny?
I like the Cole pick because I like the pick hot golfers because I think that's kind of what I'm looking at trend wise is what I picked out this week here. Harris English played well, could have won the tournament last week, and I think he's fully healthy now. Just getting that golf swing back, and seemed to be putting pretty well. Don't know his course history here, but I just liked him from what he looked like last week. Not even close to a win bet, but Webb Simpson back shot 30 on the back nine at Bay Hill on Sunday. He's finally, maybe he got that putting stroke back. His ball striking isn't bad, but his putting has been, I was looking at it, has just been a joke, and putted really, really well. I mean, he's 131 to win, 130 to 1 to win the event. He's not going to win it. He's probably not going to finish top 20, but look at him in a top 40 or something like that if you think he can end up making the cut, or parlay him in a make cut but a former champion, maybe there's some signs of life. I know we've mentioned him a couple times, and
yes, I said he was dead. I said, is Webb Simpson dead?
We did ask that, and as of Sunday afternoon, he was not dead because he shot 30 there. So it's not a bad one there. Brian Harmon. I feel like this is, we didn't even have to have me on the podcast here. We could have just taken like a bunch of names that we always mention, but this is a Brian Harmon golf course, and 110 to 1 is big. Yes, probably not going to win it, but the guy's had top 10 finishes before, so I'm liking that. I didn't check his form though. That's the one guy I haven't really looked at. I know he played well, I think, in an event or two on the West Coast there. So
you love Brian Harmon.
I don't love Brian Harmon.
I mean, if someone was keeping a record of Brian Harmon picks, you would have a high.
You would have the record.
Yes, something like that. Harmon finished back-to-back runner-ups in the fall at Mayakoba and RSM, and he hasn't had a top 10 since, but he was.
I think he had a top 20 on the West Coast, though. I don't remember which tournament, but I do remember seeing his name.
Okay. I'm going down to the 181 terrain, 180 to 1. A little talking today, guys. Johnny's system play, Adam Svensson, is playing some good golf this year. He won the RSM in the fall, finished top 10 at Riviera, even top 25 last week. I think 181 is a little underpriced. I mean, I don't think he's going to win the Players Championship, but I could also say it's not crazy. I think plus 1,200 for a top 10 is really interesting. I like that. He is an elite ball striker. Just saying, I like that number for him in some capacity. Davis Riley shot 66 on Sunday. I'm back on Davis Riley. He finished in the top 10 last week. Maybe he's gotten some momentum, plus 1,100 for a top 10. I'm not a believer that one of these guys that's 100 to 1 is going to actually win the tournament, even though this tournament's history has shown it's possible. But those are a couple that I like that are down the board. But that's all I have, guys. Anything?
So just so make sure, Davis Riley's in, Victor Hovland's out, right? For you.
What about Aaron Wise? 150 to 1.
I did say I was done with Aaron Wise too. That's a good point, Dave. From a superstar perspective, it's a different scale. I'm treating Victor Hovland on the is he on that scale, that level of Schefflers and Rorys and even Morikawas, and no, he's not. Is he a much better player than Davis Riley? Yes, he is. I keep betting Davis Riley, and I said I was done with him for a while, but now I'm back. But Aaron Wise, man, that dude is dead to me right now. Dead. And so is Justin Thomas as well. Can't touch them. All right, guys. Players Championship. Any final thoughts, or are we good?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a fantastic week. I have heard, albeit still a little early, but I think the weather's supposed to be pretty good. A little bit of winds, but mostly sunny and warm. So yeah should be interesting.
Wind is going to be there, obviously, and they're growing the rough out actually to 3.5 inches instead of the traditional 2.5. So that may make a little bit of a change if you, for those betting at home, you might, hitting fairways is going to be a little more optimal this week. But with a sub-air system underneath, they can control the greens and make them soft or hard. So they may just want to. I mean, they could just absolutely just brutalize these guys if it gets, if it gets firm and fast and balls running in the fair or out of the fairways and everything like that. But fun event. This is always a real good one. I think the golf course is got to be the most fun to watch. I mean, other than Augusta, year in and year out. So I can't wait for Thursday.
Yep. It's elite. It's an elite event. All right, boys. Appreciate your time. We got down into some good discussion today. Great panel tonight. Thanks, Dave and Johnny.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate
it. Check out Your Best Bet. We put out the Pieri podcast last night on YouTube. We'll have this one out on YouTube as well. We'll have our picks out on Wednesday. So no Callahan this week, but we'll get him on in the future. And then our next podcast will be Sunday night, and I'll be with my buddy Nate breaking down the selection show right after it's released Sunday evening, and we can talk about the prospects of the Indiana Hoosiers going forward in the tournament. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Go Hoosiers.